Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new reading vlog. So in this video, I am reading three 2025 ARCs that I have received. Two of these books come out in September and one comes out in November. We have two horror books to read and one thriller book to read, and I am very excited for all of them. So that's pretty much it. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the video. Hi everybody. This is a weird freaking angle. I'm starting this vlog. This is so weird. I'm filming on my phone, at least to start the vlog, because I'm sure you know by now that I moved and the memory card on the camera is currently full and we don't have the computer set up yet in order to transfer everything off of the memory card, and then I can film on the camera. So I'm just starting this vlog on my phone. I'm also outside, so there's a little bit of background noise right now, but me and Molly are just hanging out and I am reading We Are Always Tender with Our Dead by Eric LaRocca, which is the first book, I believe, in a trilogy that is upcoming. This is the Burnt Sparrow trilogy, and I've been reading this over the course of a few days because, like I said, during the moving process I haven't been reading a whole lot. So I am now 39% of the way through the book. I don't know what I can tell you what's really in the synopsis, and I feel like it's a little bit difficult as well because I'm not entirely sure what the plot is. I was reading this and I was like, I feel like this is more of a character-driven book, but now I feel like that might not even be true because we just switched characters that we're following. So now I'm like, I don't know what is going on. But Burnt Sparrow is the town that this book takes place in, and the first chapter we are reading, what is this guy's name? Something with an R. We are reading from the perspective of Rupert Cromwell, and he is a young boy, not like super young. I think he's in his late teens, and he is living with his father in Burnt Sparrow, and that is how we start off the book. And then we get this introduction to this massacre that occurred at the Christmas parade in this town in the year of 2003. This family came in and slaughtered like a whole bunch of people at this parade, and then we come to learn that it's a family, it's a mother, a father, and a boy, but they may not be human because they don't really have eyes or noses or mouths, really. Like, they don't have human features, but they are kind of humanoid, but they're faceless. And I don't know. I don't know. And now like I said, there's just been like a perspective change of the character that we're following. We are now following a woman named Gladys, and we are following her because her husband is like the wealthiest man in this town. And when they apprehend these people after all of these killings, they are trying to figure out what to do with them. Basically, they don't want to let them off like too easy with like the death penalty or like life imprisonment or whatever. It's very clear that they want them to suffer just like they made the town suffer. So this wealthy man is like, I'm going to open up my home and I'm going to take these people in. They will be my responsibility to house and feed, but it will be an open door for anybody to come in at any time and kind of have their revenge on these people, and like open it up that people can come in and just kind of like torture these beings that are responsible for the killings. So now we are in Gladys's perspective, which is his wife, and we are getting that arrival of the creatures, people, beings, murderers to this home. And I don't really know what to make of it so far. I honestly, I Eric LaRocca is like one of my favorite authors, but I was kind of struggling with like the first section where we're in Rupert's perspective. I just wasn't a really big fan of the way that was written for some reason. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just been a while since I've read from Eric LaRocca or if there is something different about this writing. I don't know. It was third person. It just wasn't really totally working for me. And I just started Gladys's chapter, so I don't know if this one will go a little bit better for me. My favorite part of the first section was when our main character listens to a voicemail from his mother and she is like telling him this story. I liked the way that was written. I liked the perspective that that was told from, and I liked that story, but that is not at all related to the main plot of the book, so I don't think that's a good sign so far. Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading and I will come back to you guys later. Hopefully at some point I can get the camera working again, but for now you just gotta deal with the cell phone quality.
Hi everyone. It is another few days later. You might be able to tell I do have the camera back up and working again. Like I said, I just had to empty the memory card, but we needed to set up our computer first before I did that. But it's taken me a few days to finish the book. Not only just because like with moving, like I've been really busy, but also this is just not a book that I wanted to pick up and continue reading, but I knew I had to, and so I finally finished it tonight not too long ago, and it was not good. Can say by far my least favorite Eric LaRocca book, and he's one of my favorite authors, but I'm giving this 2 stars because it was not good. I can't even really begin to explain my feelings about it because I can't really tell you much about the plot because it didn't really feel like there was a plot. It was definitely very character focused. Like I said, we were following Rupert for a good portion of the book, and then our other perspective that we had was, I think her name was Gladys. Yes, Gladys Esherwood, that wealthy man's wife. She's the other perspective that we have, and there's really not much else to it. So we start off the book from, sorry, you're balancing on the bed, Rupert's perspective, and I can't remember if I mentioned this in the last update, but I was like the writing felt very off to me, and I don't know, like it just didn't seem like what I expect when I go into an Eric LaRocca book. Like I expect it to be good, and this was like not it, and I really didn't enjoy Rupert's narrative. I didn't enjoy the way that it was written. I didn't really enjoy him as a character. I didn't feel very connected to him. I just, to be quite honest, didn't really care about anything that he was talking about when we were reading from his perspective. And then when we switched to Gladys, I do think that the way that that was written was a little bit better, and I can't really even pinpoint like what the little differences is. It's just kind of like the way that it felt overall. I liked reading from Gladys's perspective, and I liked her story a little bit more. I found it more interesting and kind of brought back my interest with that initial perspective change, but then from there it just kind of like went off again, because then we go back, like every time it switched back to Rupert, I was just like rolling my eyes. I was like, we have to do this again. I just did not enjoy him, and I just couldn't connect to the characters or the story the whole way, and I think it's because like there really is no plot. There is not really a well-crafted story within here. You know, we have Burnt Sparrow is the town, and it is the Burnt Sparrow trilogy, and so you would think that there would be more lore and more of a buildup of atmosphere and kind of world building as well, of like what this town is and all of the strange things that happen there. We do get like some inserts of like blog posts talking about strange cases that have happened in this town, but it's just kind of like you get a couple of those throughout the book, and then those things are never really touched upon after that. There's not really like a big lore buildup or any sort of background to really build out the eeriness and like the unsettling feeling that I guess as a reader you would hope to get from this type of book. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I just wanted to feel more immersed in the town and to know more about the strange things that happen there. We learn about the massacre, and that's the main thing that we're following throughout the story, but we don't even really get a lot of details on that. And then they like get the murderers for it, and then it kind of just really devolves into nothing. Like, the plot was like so non-existent in this book, and I'm just like so perplexed, like even trying to make sense of like what I just read, because the entire thing felt pretty pointless. And okay, I understand, like I said, the first book in the trilogy, we're not gonna get all of the backstory and all of the lore right away, but then it felt really long-winded at times and almost not like info dumpy, but it kind of was like a very, very info dump about the characters that we're following, and like really all about Rupert and his life and how he feels internally and all of these horrible things that he witnessed. And there was like so much of that, but not enough like building out a plot or a story or like any sort of central idea for the book. By the end, I will admit, like the last 20 or so pages, I was kind of skimming, because the book ends with Rupert telling Gladys a story, and I just, like, the entire book felt pointless, but then also the inclusion of that story felt even more pointless, because it was like, I was like, why am I reading this? Like, I don't understand what this is, and I don't want to read 10 pages of the main character telling a story that is not really directly related to the book at all. So I did kind of skim that a little bit, because I just wasn't enjoying my time reading it up until that point, and I wanted to get it over with. I'm just feeling really, really sad. What I was saying before, I totally got off topic there. That is the first book in the trilogy, so the author is not going to give you everything right away. Like, I'm sure more of the lore and like the things that I wanted in this book will get exposed in hopefully the second and the third book. We will get more pieces to the puzzle as far as like Burnt Sparrow goes and all of the weird things that happen in this town, but I feel like you can't really, you got to give us something, right? You can't just give us nothing and then expect us to pick up the next book in order to get the answers to the questions that we have without giving us like a little taste of it in the first book. And I feel like we just didn't get anything. Like, there was nothing about this book that I really enjoyed and that makes me want to continue reading the trilogy. I don't care about the characters. I don't care about what the outcome is with these characters. I wish that I cared more about the town and what potentially could happen to these characters and other people within the town, but I really just don't care. The entire thing just felt like it was just pointless. Like, that's the best way that I can describe it, and it makes me really, really sad. But I'm gonna move on from that. I was thinking about starting with Friends Like These by Alyssa Lee next. That's this one. And bad idea, but I did look it up on Goodreads, and it has a very low average rating. It has a 3.03, and there's over 200 early reviews that have come in already. And so now I'm scared, but I probably will pick this one up because I feel like I want a thriller more than I want to get into like another horror book, although I do have high hopes for the next arc because it's Philip Fracassi, so maybe I'll save that one for last, so hopefully we can end on a good note. But I'm gonna clear all the bias from my mind, go into this with positive vibes and a good feeling, and hopefully I'll enjoy it. But I'm so sad that first one was a flop. There was a whole gaggle of children playing outside, so pardon the background noise. But, you know, they're just being kids. They are definitely nothing like the kids that would play around the last apartment that we lived at, because those kids were fucking menaces. Like, they were always playing around the vehicles. They scratched my boyfriend's vehicle, which he painted by himself, and they scratched it so hard that you could see the primer that he painted on there. And we would literally like stand there in the window and like watch them deliberately kick balls at like parked cars and like run up and slap them and like jump on cars that don't belong to them. So these kids, they're playing soccer in like a field of grass right now, and that is fine with me, but it's a little noisy. Anyway, I am now about 50% through with Friends Like These by Alyssa Lee, and I waited so long to do an update because I wanted to wait for like something to start happening before I sat down and like talked to you guys about the book. And we are just now getting to a point where like something's sort of happening. It's been a lot of setup, and it still does feel like a lot of setup. Like, I still feel like we're getting a lot of important background information on like the characters and the world, and we're like over 50%, I say the world, but like just the circumstances and the characters, and we're over 50% of the way through, so it's kind of a little bit slow, and it doesn't really feel like a lot is happening so far. But basically we are following one main character, and I can't even remember her name, but this is about her and like her group of college friends. They used to play this game that they called Circus, and they kind of made it up amongst themselves. Basically, the whole idea of the game is that they all get together and they kind of have like an opening ceremony type thing, and to like kick it off, and everybody gets a name of another person in the group, and that is their target. And I think they have like 7 days to get their target out with these little like fake water guns, and then once they get their target, then they take on that person's target, and so on until there's only one person left, who is the winner of Circus. So they started playing this in college. They are now in their 40s. This is their 20th game of Circus, and this is their last game. So the stakes are very high because there is a big pot of money that they contributed at the beginning, and then since then it has been like invested and grown to a pretty sizable amount, like way more than the characters are like acting like it is. They're like acting like it's like $20. It's like, no, it's like almost $1 million, and they're like being very casual about it. I don't understand. Like, we're in a different tax bracket that like that's not that much money. Anyway, so this game, this round of Circus, is very high stakes. Also, all rules are called off for this last game, so they can really go as crazy as they want to, and some of them do get very meticulous and very competitive with it, especially since they've been playing it for 20 years. Like, they know a little bit more. They kind of have techniques and strategies down, and now they don't have any rules that they have to stick to, so it's a very high stakes game. And obviously with the money, like our main character that we're following could definitely use this money with the circumstances that she's experiencing in her life, but so can other women in the group as well. But now we are getting to this part where like the game is in full swing. I think they're on like day 3 or something, and 2 of the women so far have gotten these, I don't know, I don't want to say threatening, because like nobody's really threatening them. They've just gotten these notes that are like, oh, like, what if so and so knew about the game? I guess it is kind of a threat, because like there kind of is an illusion that they're like going to tell somebody that is going to be detrimental for this person to find out that they're still playing this game. But it doesn't really feel like super threatening just yet. And then there's also a little bit of like a side plot sort of mystery, I guess, because back in college there used to be another girl that was a part of this group and would play with them, and one of the years where they were playing Circus, she ended up dying accidentally, and that was kind of a big thing because some people said that they saw like the main character we're following push her, and they think that the other girls are responsible for the death, and that if they weren't playing the game then she wouldn't have died. But eventually everything got dismissed and the case was closed, and now they are kind of playing with the idea of reopening that case and reopening the murder investigation. So there's kind of a lot going on right now. But none of it really, like I said, feels like super threatening, and I just feel like it's a little bit odd that it feels like we're still getting set up to the book when I'm 51% of the way through. I do think it's interesting though. I'm enjoying the writing. It's fast paced, which is what I'm always looking for when I pick up a thriller, is something that's going to be fast paced and keeping me turning the pages, and it's definitely doing that. I was a little bit worried going in that it would be a little bit difficult to keep track of the characters, but it really hasn't been. I think there's like 5 different girls that we're following, and it's been pretty easy to distinguish between them and know like who is who. I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of other information coming in right now too about the main character and like her husband, and her husband owns a restaurant and like that whole situation, and then their like condo that they own or whatever is like falling apart, and it's like there's kind of a lot of things going on, but then it also feels like nothing's really happening just yet. So maybe in the second half of the book it will get more fast paced and more things will start to happen, but I just right now, like, I think it's compelling. I don't know if compelling is the right word to use, because like I'm interested in it and I want to keep reading, but I'm also not entirely sure like what like what I'm supposed to be like guessing at or feeling compelled to follow. I guess just who's sending these notes, and like that's about it. So I'm hoping that the stakes get upped a little bit higher and it gets more dangerous for the characters, because right now I don't feel like they're being really threatened. Like, you know, I want them to have some near-death experiences and then we can talk. And back in my bed, I apologize that you're not really seeing a lot in this vlog, but obviously just moving, like nothing's really set up, and this is like one of the spots right now that I have to film. Once again, there's children playing outside, so it might be a little bit noisy, but I finished the book with Friends Like These, and I don't know what to rate it. I was thinking like a 3-star, but then like reflecting on it, I feel like there are things that I've rated 3 stars before that I definitely enjoyed a lot more than this one, and I don't think this is going to be very memorable, so I'm thinking maybe 2.5 stars, because generally it's not one that I would recommend. Like, normally, even with a book that I don't enjoy, like I try to think like, okay, even if I don't like it, who would I recommend this to? Like, what kind of audience would I recommend this book to? And I honestly don't know that I would recommend this to anybody, because it just, I don't know, there was like nothing particularly enjoyable about it. I didn't dislike it for sure. Like, it kind of held my attention, but it also felt pretty pointless, and if you're somebody that's looking for a thriller, like this is definitely one that you can skip, because I don't think there was anything thrilling about it. It really just didn't have, like, when you're looking for a thriller, I mean, everybody's different, but like I said, I'm looking for something that's fast paced. I'm looking for something that is going to like really hold my attention and kind of give me that like unput downable feeling. And then also a lot of times with a thriller, you're picking up something that you want to have kind of a shocking plot twist, and the only thing this had going for it was that it was fast paced. Like, it just wasn't thrilling, it wasn't suspenseful. The mystery was pretty weak as well. I feel like it was pretty easy to figure out what was going on. I definitely like figured out who the person was behind everything pretty early on, and so it just didn't really have that shock factor or any sort of redeeming qualities when we get to the end. And then it also did feel kind of rushed towards the end as well. Like I mentioned in the last update that I did, like, it didn't ever feel like threatening towards the characters, or like they were really in danger. There's, I guess, one moment where one of the main characters is kind of in danger a little bit and does kind of like have this incident. Hello, there's a cat here messing with the tripod. There's like one incident, but I don't know, that's really it. Is like this one lady gets like a letter that's like, stop playing the game, and then the other lady gets an email that's like, stop playing the game, and then something happens with this other character, and then aside from that, it's like, I don't know, I just feel like nothing really happened to actually make me care about like the plot or like feel that investment in the characters and like worried for them and like scared for them, like, oh my god, where is this gonna go? It didn't have that high suspense that I'm looking for when I pick up a thriller, and I just think generally this is one that you can skip and you're definitely not missing anything. This is a debut by this author. Maybe if she continues to publish books and continues to write thrillers, maybe she can kind of perfect what her style is in the future, and maybe I'll pick up another one if she does continue to publish books. But this one, generally, I wouldn't really recommend because I just don't think that it had a whole lot of redeeming qualities. So unfortunately, so far, both of these arcs have been a flop, but I have high hopes for the next one. I don't have my Kindle with me, but I'm going to be starting, what is it called? The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre, I think, but it's by Philip Fracassi, and he wrote one of my favorite horror books, which is Boys in the Valley. I've read maybe I've just read one other thing by Philip Fracassi, but that doesn't sound right. I feel like I've read like 2 other things by him. I remember now. I read A Child Alone with Strangers. So I have read 3 things total by Philip Fracassi and generally enjoyed all of them. A Child Alone with Strangers, I think I gave like 3 stars or 3.5 stars. Like, it wasn't my favorite, but that's still a book that I like find myself thinking about because I really, really like the plot of that one. So I have high hopes for this because I like this author, and I just think this will be a fun read because like I work primarily with seniors, which I also have like an Alzheimer's shirt on right now, so that's very fitting. So I have high hopes for that one. Hopefully we can end this off with a good book and a good arc that I can actually recommend you guys. So I am now 40% through the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre now, and I am really, really enjoying it. So to tell you a little bit about the book, the primary perspective that we are reading from is Rose, and she is a woman in her late 70s, and she is living at this retirement community, Autumn Springs, and there have been a few strange deaths that have occurred. So it starts off with one of her friends dying in like a slip and fall accident after allegedly trying to take a late night bath. And then we have a man who dies by suicide, and then a man who died from a heart attack. But there's a lot of other suspicious things going on at the community. The deaths, like the circumstances of the deaths just seem weird, and it's been like 3 deaths within like the span of a week. And then there's also been reports of like other residents seeing like figures and like people at night walking around the property and like looking in windows of the apartments. So it's a very weird situation. There's also some other weird things happening in the background. Like there is another resident who thinks he is being contacted by aliens. There is some witchcraft happening with another group of residents. There is an old asylum building on the property as well that has been a little bit strange. But so far, I'm really liking it. I think it's really intriguing. It is very fast paced. I am enjoying the way that it's written and the way that the characters are written. And then we also get, like, with each of these death scenes, we get a chapter from the perspective of that person as they are being killed. So, like, we do get a little bit of an insight into what's happening, but we are primarily following the greater mystery of, like, who is responsible for these deaths and why they are doing them. And we are following Rose and a couple of other characters as they are trying to investigate this, because it's not really being taken seriously by the police, because I mean, obviously the person that is responsible for the deaths is making it seem accidental. And then also when you're dealing with people of this age population at a retirement home, like, the police are like, you know, this is normal. Old people die, like, whatever. So it's really up to Rose and her friends and some of the other residents to kind of get to the bottom of it. But I'm really, really liking it. I will say I'm definitely very curious and, like, interested in the storyline, because I picked this up thinking it was going to be like a slasher set at a retirement home, and it is that, but it also, like I said, there's some other weird things happening in the background, and I think it might go a different direction or take a little bit of a spin on the like slasher vibe. So I'm very, very curious to see where it goes from here. I'm gonna read a little bit more before bed, but just a short and sweet little update that I am enjoying this one. Hello from my super cool new reading chair. It's very much like giving grandma vibes. It's a rocking chair, and it has, first of all, this like pretty green fabric, and it's so soft and comfy, and then it has a matching footrest that also rocks, and it's just, I got this for $25 today, okay? Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap up this video. It's been a few days since I finished the last book, The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi, and I just never came back to do an update, but I ended up giving that one 4 stars. I really liked it. I think it was just kind of like a fun and unique little bit of a twist on the slasher genre. Not really like a twist, but like, I don't know, just a unique take on a classic slasher. I really, really enjoyed our main character Rose, and I also really liked the side characters as well. And then I think it was really fun that like with each of the murders, Philip Fracassi chose to write from those characters' perspective of that night where they are getting killed, and some of those were actually like a little bit unsettling to read, because think how scary that would be to be like in old age and you're living in a retirement home and you are like physically unable to help yourself, not able to call anybody, and you can see the person that is going to kill you coming towards you, and it's like there's nothing you can do. Like in any situation, whether you're a senior or not, like that's scary. And I really liked the way that the author wrote those scenes. I also really enjoyed this one because there is a little bit of commentary in there about like the stigma around aging and seniors and retirement communities and things like that, and the way that seniors are often treated and spoken to and not taken so seriously. And then there's also a little bit of talk of like dementia as well, and Philip Fracassi kind of goes into it on a little bit of a personal level at the end. He wrote an author's note, and I just really enjoyed everything that he had to say about that, and I like the way that he wrote the characters and didn't contribute to those stereotypes in the way that he wrote the main characters. Just all around, I feel like this is a pretty good, solid horror novel. It maybe did seem a little bit long for what it was, and I could see people kind of critiquing it for that, but I honestly had such a fun time the whole time that I was reading it, and it kind of keeps you wrapped up as well in the plot, because there is that whole mystery throughout of like who is responsible for these murders and why are they doing it, and that was just really, really fun to get that reveal. So that is it for this reading vlog. At least we had one win at the end. I really, really needed it after the other two were such big flops. So at least we can leave this video with me at least recommending one of these books to you. If you have any of these on your TBR or your radar for the upcoming rest of the year, let me know down below. Let me know if you still plan to read any of these books. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.